Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of AI Wins. I'm your host, Jay. And to ones who do not know about AI Wins, this is a podcast where we dive into the real world applications of course, AI, as the name suggests. And join with us as we connect with industry leaders, innovators, and even successful startup owners as to how they're uncovering the strategies, tools, and the ideas and the change in the way that we live and breathe. And today we would be talking about a pretty interesting topic, an intersection of human and AI where things are gradually making changes. AI powered sales in the human connection in the age of AI. And joining with us today is the CEO and the founder of Nayak, David Frankle. Welcome on the show, David.
Hi, thank you. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Lovely having you on AI Wins as well. So let's break the ice. Let's start off as to who David is, how Nayak came into being. Let's start the story.
Sure. Yeah. So I several years ago now, it's 6 or 7. I graduated from Harvard with a degree in English, and then I went and I did some research at a physics lab in Switzerland, and then I went and I taught math at a boarding school in England. Which all of this makes sense for an English major,
Yes.
right? Uh, but the thing that brings it all together is my love of sales. I fell in love with sales during college. I had some experience. And to succeed in sales, you need a couple of things. You need to be good at communication, which is where I got from the English degree. You need to be good at research, and you need to be good at making complicated ideas simple, explaining them in a simple way, which is what I did as a math teacher. And after all of that, I went and I worked in sales, selling a very complicated product. And it was around this time that GPT-3 was
Mhm.
coming out. This was like
Okay.
2021. And I was obsessed with it basically. So I was spending a lot of time on it just for fun. And then something clicked one day, and I realized we can probably use a lot of this AI technology and GPT-3 and all of that to solve some of the problems that I was experiencing as a salesperson. So that's how it all came into being.
A pretty wise interpretation as to how sales is formed. You mentioned communication, mentioned making complicated ideas simple, and then
Yeah.
uh, bringing it and research,
Research.
of course. Yes. So,
Yeah.
three pillars, and with the use of AI, how we can make salesmen
Yeah.
awesome salesmen.
Yeah. So this actually it all ties into one of the frameworks that we've developed at
Yeah.
Nayak, which is we call the 4 Ps
Okay.
framework. So for sales, we believe it all goes back to trust and rapport.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's hard to give somebody your money if you don't trust
True.
them. So I think the first job of a salesperson is to build that trust and build that rapport and build that relationship. And we're developing this idea of a trust triangle with kind of uh, three main pillars. So it's prepare, perform, be present, which leads to positive relationships and positive outcomes. So to prepare, you need to research.
Yeah.
To perform, you need to be uh, an expert or you need to demonstrate some expertise. And then you need to show some authenticity, which is being present. And those are three of the pillars of how you build trust. And my co founder and I have done a lot of research on this field. And these are the conclusions that we've come to. And a lot of people agree with
Yeah.
us. And we've developed this system and this framework using also AI to help build that trust and rapport.
Exactly. One of the challenges that a lot of salesmen uh, in the industry or wherever face is the inability to build trust with the prospect.
Yeah,
That's where the relationship starts. That's where things start
right.
happening. Okay, if you don't trust me, how can I how can I trust the product that you're selling? That's in a
Yeah,
sense the question that anyone would ask. So, in comparing how sales team approach conversations today, and with that of 5 years ago, what is the biggest shift that you have observed when building Nayak and you yourself as a salesman?
Well, there's a couple of trends that have been happening. One is solutions are getting and problems are getting much more
Yeah.
specific. So I don't know about 5 years ago, but in the 80s, you weren't buying 70 different pieces of software to solve unique problems. You were buying, you probably had two or three
Yeah.
large vendors that you bought from B2B. And that was kind of it. And how those relationships happened, it was through personal networks mostly, and people on the golf course, and people you can just ring up as friends. I'm speaking anecdotally. I, of course, was
Yeah.
not around selling in the 80s. And there were a lot of problems with that way of doing business. There were, kickbacks and, people getting underhanded support for, shady dealings, basically. If you're selling to your fraternity brothers, you can kind of just grease the wheels a little bit with, I'll buy from you next quarter, you buy from me this quarter, whatever. So, of course, there's been some good improvements too, but also some challenges that have come with that. Now there's a solution for everything, and everything is a lot more specialized. So, one big shift that we've seen is that buyers are experts in their problem
Mm.
space, and they come to these conversations incredibly well
Yes.
informed.
They're prepared.
So there's an expertise gap, right? Because if the buyer knows a lot more about what's going on and a lot more about the industry and the problems they're facing, then how does a salesperson come in and demonstrate that expertise to act as a trusted advisor?
True.
So that's one of the biggest
True.
trends.
True. True. So when the buyer is already upping the bar, the salesperson cannot be here. It needs to be further up because obviously, as you said, they need to be the trusted advisor for, of course, the reason why the buyer
Yeah,
is coming to them to solve their day-to-day problems as to how their solution
yeah,
can address what they're looking for.
right. Yeah. And teams have gotten around this in a couple of ways, usually by stacking tools and people.
Hmm.
So you would have, my co-founder came from Twilio, and they had technical experts for each industry. There was an expert for finance and an expert for, uh, you know, media and an expert for call centers and whatever. And then there were product
Yeah.
specialists, and you had a product specialist for this suite of products and a product specialist for this suite of products. And you had technical, like, solution engineers also. And the salesperson was kind of the one who was running through all of these different
Okay.
experts to act as a trusted advisor, being the face of all of the expertise for the company. The company that's doing the selling would fill all these gaps with different experts. And my co-founder came from Twilio, and she filled all at Twilio. They filled this with experts in the industry, experts in the product, and technical experts and solution architects. And you'd have kind of a team of 14 people doing one
Hmm.
sale, which work to some degree, but it costs a lot of money, and there's some inefficiencies to it. And we see the future as you don't need all of those experts, because now we have the technology for the first time to take in all of that information and give it to the salesperson right at the exact moment that they need it, to build that trust and build that reputation as a trusted advisor for that buyer.
In making these sales folks more trusted advisors and more reputable, to use your words,
Hmm.
how does Nayak ensure the insights are not just data driven but also actionable in the moment? How does Nayak tackle this?
Yeah. So you're saying data driven and actionable. I think when you say data driven, you mean it's coming from actually a source of
Yes, a
knowledge, and it's
knowledge base.
reputable, and
Yes.
it's accurate. And then when it's actionable, you're asking, how is it presented in a way that the salesperson
Yeah.
can use it immediately and make some effect out of
Yeah.
it, right? Yeah. So we make sure it's data driven by connecting with different knowledge bases, like you said, and We can connect to documents, presentations, data stores to make sure that the knowledge is coming from an accurate
Yep.
source. And then we show that information live in the call to the salesperson. So there's a little window on the
Yep.
side. You're having a
Okay.
video call, and there's a window on the side, and Nayak's listening in, and it's showing information live right there in the call.
Oh.
So it can say, even, you should ask this question, you should dig a little bit deeper, you should bring up this case study,
Mm.
and it's showing that all live. So it's right when it's going to be
So
most
it's
useful.
it's pretty much like a real time coach who's listening out of the conversation
Yeah,
and guiding the sales folks to be more trusted.
yeah,
Uh, uh,
yeah,
uh,
exactly. Yeah,
that's a pretty interesting take. Yeah, I wish it existed when I was in sales, but uh, mm,
sounds like you experienced some of the same
exactly, exactly.
problems.
So one of the main issues that I faced during sales calls is these issues. What use case should I bring right now when the question comes
Mhm.
this way, or else if the prospect is going around the bush but not really going in the direction that we want, what questions do we need to ask in order to have a
Yeah,
better pulse check of the budget, the timeline?
yeah.
Wow, times are changing.
And we do even more than
Okay,
that. So what I'm describing now is still kind of in the future. We plan to track sentiment
okay,
and using verbal and nonverbal
okay.
cues to track how the buyer is feeling in that moment, and use that as an input to drive the coaching and the suggestions that we're giving to the salesperson. So right now we track voice
Okay.
sentiment, which is not very hard. That's kind of commoditized. You can track. There's a million providers for sentiment, uh, and we already use that a little bit to drive the guidance and the
Yes.
coaching. But what we plan to do is we plan to add in facial expression analytics, body language analytics, some other nonverbal cues. Are their cameras on or off? Are they on mute? Did they invite anybody else from their team to the call?
Okay.
Have they been opening the emails? Have they been visiting your website? Have they been sending your website URL to other people on their team? So these are some uh, dark signals that are very informative but don't get used to the best potential. And also, when you're tracking the facial expressions and the body language and the tone of voice, you can really pick up on, are they confused? Are they engaged? Are they understanding? Are they angry? Are they
Distracted.
feeling
Yeah.
positive or negative? And it's a hard problem too, because in sales, part of the issue is you want to drive the pain, to make them feel the pain while you're talking to
Exactly.
them.
Spot on.
I had a mentor say, you want to, drag them through the glass. You want to really make them feel the pain, and then you want to give them a pill to take away the pain. So if we're tracking the facial expressions and the sentiment, you need to be context aware to know, well, if we're talking about pain, even if they have a negative sentiment, that's actually useful in the moment because you want them to have a negative sentiment. So it all gets very complicated.
So I reckon you use the vision capabilities to gauge how my micro expressions are. Am I receptive? Am I putting you off? Am I right?
Well, that's like I was saying, these are planned
Yeah.
capabilities. So we right now we track the
Okay.
voice sentiment. But yeah, I mean, believe it or not, there's data providers for facial expressions and body
There is.
language. There's some open source frameworks. There's a million ways to do it. I think the new, real time API from OpenAI could probably do it, but it costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Uh, you guys are changing the sales game in a better way, and
yeah,
I only wish I had my hands on Nayak when I was a salesperson back in the day. But with all these plan changes and rolled out features already in the market with Nayak, pretty sure
mm,
there could be some misconceptions or even fears that sales teams have are going through about incorporating AI into their daily workflows. Maybe it's a conversation, maybe it's a proposal being drafted, maybe it's a follow up email, anything. So, how does Nayak tackle that? Because that's common and universal to any AI product under the hood.
Yeah. So there are two big fears or misconceptions. One is that companies are going to use AI to replace human
Yeah.
interactions or to make conversations feel more
Yes.
robotic. So even if there's a human in the loop, it's more of a rigid scripts. And are you asking about the budget? And at minute 4 in the conversation, you need to mention something about the weather. And at minute 18 in the conversation, you need to see if they can introduce you to their manager. Like, we don't want to do any of that. I think there probably are going to be. I mean, there are billboards in San Francisco saying stop hiring humans, hire robots
Yeah.
instead. And I don't like that. I think that sales for the near future, the next 5-10 years, you're gonna need a human in the loop because people. I mean, imagine. I'm sure you get calls from robots sometimes, and what do? You
Cut
immediately
it
hang
off.
up,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to talk to a robot. Uh, the other thing is, it's you don't want to talk to a robot because you can't build that trust and rapport with the
Mm.
robot. So we've built all of our systems around building trust and rapport. So we're not trying to automate the conversation, we're trying to
Yeah.
augment it. And the reason why this is so crucial and powerful and what we're doing is so important is because as more sales conversations move to video calls, as opposed to face in the same room, it becomes harder to read these nonverbal cues because your eyes drift, the screens are, you don't see the whole body image. Sometimes the person has their
Yeah.
camera off, sometimes it's at a weird angle. Anyways, you have a lot more opportunities to miss these cues than you do if you're across the table from somebody. So even if you're, salespeople, I think in general are above average at these skills compared to the rest of the population, you're still going to be missing these cues that you wouldn't if you were across the table from
Makes
somebody,
sense. Makes sense.
just because of the nature of video calls and all of that. So we're trying to just augment the salesperson's natural abilities to build trust and rapport. Uh, and another fear is around privacy and data usage.
Many.
And we're building our system with privacy first principles. So our customers maintain control of their data while still benefiting from AI powered insights. And then there's a second layer to the privacy, which is not just our customers, but the prospects that they're talking to. And we, to first of all, prospects are getting more and more used to these call
Yeah.
recorders. Everybody's got a call recorder now. It's becoming kind of,
Mainstream.
it's almost a little weird if you don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
one, right? Then it's like, what are you doing taking notes with pen and paper when I want you to be paying attention to me? I don't want you to be looking down and taking
Makes
notes, right?
sense.
So that's becoming more common. And the other thing is, since it's becoming more common, the buyers are less, I guess, afraid of that privacy concern. So it's any sales, any buyer in the past year has probably had Otter or Gong or
Yeah.
Fireflies or
Yeah.
Fathom or any of these. Like, it's less of an issue than you might expect.
And with the all this becoming mainstream, I guess you kind of answered my next question as well. How where it was going to be how AI and human salespeople evolve over the next decade. Anything apart from what you just mentioned that you would want to add in that, how that relationship would
Yeah,
evolve?
yeah. So I think in the next, in 5 years, it won't be like a window on the side of your video call giving you feedback on what to say or do. It might look something a little bit more like a wearable, like smart contact lenses or smart
Yep.
glasses, or I'm joking,
It
but
could be.
the chip that Elon Musk wants to put in
Yeah.
your brain. You know, I don't actually think people are going to want to put chips in their brains, but who knows. So then it's not going to be so confined to the screen that you're looking at. And if it turns into smart contact lenses or smart glasses, then there's no reason you can't use this technology in other conversations also, aside from
Mhm.
sales. I see a future where either Nayak or another company has takes in some of these verbal and nonverbal cues and helps you with hard personal conversations. If you need to talk to an ex girlfriend, or if you need to if you're meeting your mother in law for the first time, or you want to have a hard conversation with your somebody who is a jerk to you at the golf club, and they always take your rackets, or they take your, you can tell I don't play golf. They always cut in line
Yeah.
at the queue, and this always happens. You might struggle with that conversation. Maybe Nyack can help guide you to the desired outcome in a way that's measured and reasonable and responsible. So that's the first thing, and then the other is it's going to be more common to get some hints and advice before these important conversations.
Hmm.
So I see a future where, what do you do when you wake up first thing in the morning today?
Oh, you asking me? All
Good
right.
question.
So the first thing that
Yeah,
I
what do
did
you
was
do? Yeah.
drank a glass of cold water.
When you look at your phone first, the first time you look at your phone, what is the first app that you open in the morning?
I usually go for the news app just to see what was about.
Meals,
Yeah, the news app, and then it would be Insta, and then
news.
LinkedIn,
Okay.
and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Okay. Most people say calendar,
Okay.
and I have a feeling if you thought about it for a second, it probably
Could
calendar's
be.
probably
Yeah,
top
yeah,
two or
yeah, yeah,
three,
yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah. So the first app that people open in the morning is their business app that they open in the morning is their calendar. And I see a future where instead of needing to check the calendar every morning and before every call, you have like a voice assistant, and either it's integrated with Siri or
Yeah.
Google or Alexa, or it's its own thing, and it says, today you have three important meetings. At 11 a.m., you're meeting with Jake, and you're talking about your car insurance. At 1 p.m., you're meeting with a potential buyer at farm and table
Okay.
restaurant, and you need to know that he is an extroverted person who likes a good sense of humor.
Hmm.
And here are some suggested conversation points for that call. And it's like a conversation, that like a briefing that you can interact with, and you can ask some questions like, where did Jake go to college? What do I need to know about Paul from Farm and Table Restaurant? How long has Farm and Table? And you can just have a conversation with it. So it's less confined to the screens and more a part of your actual everyday experience.
Pretty interesting. And from what you just mentioned, we are actually reinventing how we have conversations,
Yeah,
reinventing the
yeah,
ways in which how humans have been built for years and years. Uh, Pretty much looking into the future and then making those conversations better and having a
yeah,
better outcome, avoiding those awkward, not even avoiding, bypassing and breaking down those awkward barriers to have the hard conversations, just like what you told. Having a
yeah,
conversation, having that tough conversation with your superior to ask for a better raise. It could
yeah,
be that.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's
I think I think it's powerful, and one reason is I think people in general have lost some ability to read the room and read
a
other
lot.
people. I think part of that might be because we're all on our smartphones
Yeah.
24/7. We interact with people in usually like text-based
Yes.
formats, so we're having less in-person conversations, and COVID didn't
It
help
did
with
not.
that, and the
Yeah.
smartphones and the internet, like none of that helped with it. So, and the other thing too is people with social disabilities are usually at a disadvantage
Yes.
with
A
some of
lot.
these things. If you have autism or Asperger's, it might be very hard for you to ask for a raise. You might not know if somebody is presenting as irritated or misunderstanding or confused. So if you have, imagine in 10 years, you have the Nayak smart glasses, it kind of levels the playing field a little bit for some of those people with the social disabilities.
It does, and as you rightfully mentioned, it's breaking the barriers and even language barriers.
Mm.
That essentially could
Yeah.
be something that we would see in the next 5 years. I'm pretty sure, not even 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some. I don't know how good they are, but I've seen some things where it's like an earbud, and you have that kind of universal
Okay.
translator, and I can only imagine that technology is going to get better. So it's already kind of there. Um, yeah, and then if you look at the world of
Yeah.
sales in the next, longer term, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years, I think it's going to be more like AI talking to AI. So you're going to have an AI seller talking to an AI buyer. The AI buyer is going to get some requirements from some leader at the company and say, we have this problem, this, and these are our requirements, and this is our budget. Go out and find a solution. Then it's going to be like an AI buyer agent going and doing research on the internet, requesting quotes, talking to AI sales agents. Can you do
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this? Okay, like, let's negotiate a little bit. And then maybe at some point, there's going to be some human in the loop on the sales side and some human in the loop on the buyer side. But it could just be AI talking to AI via, API in 10, 15 years.
An exchange of APIs. But uh,
But until there's the AI buyer, I don't think you're going to have a fully automated
so
AI seller. As soon as you have the AI buyer that can go and take those requirements and do all of that research and negotiate and whatever, then I think it makes sense to
AI
have an AI
salesperson, yeah,
seller for you.
because that's the
Yeah,
pain, and AI sales is the
yeah.
solution.
Nobody likes buying software either. It's hard to sell software. It's hard to buy software. So I do think at some point in the next 10, 15 years, there's going to be kind of a meet in the middle where it's AI doing the heavy lifting on both sides.
Could be. And it seems like Nayak is more futuristic, and it of course is. And even beyond sales, I see Nayak going down the track as a communication trendsetter, reinventing
Yeah,
the the whole spectrum of communication, and
yeah,
being more futuristic. But let's come back to the present time, and let's understand maybe how exactly, or are there any key indicators that you come to the conclusion which says, okay, Nayak solutions has achieved measurable results, and it's been successfully implemented in a client workspace. And what are those KPIs?
yeah. So we've seen we deliver about 2x
Oh,
revenue to our
all right, that's
customers,
good.
which,
It's impressive.
that's pretty good. Yeah. And the way we track that is we looked at the historical data before Nayak was implemented, and we
Okay.
looked at the data after Nayak was implemented, and we saw about a 2x increase in revenue. And this was because SDRs were able to book twice as many appointments. AEs were able to book to generate 10% more proposals, and they're also getting a higher win rate on the proposal side. So we start at the top of the funnel, and if you expand the top of the funnel by this much, then it all kind of trickles down to the one closed one, and then on the next stage we expand a little bit
Got it.
less. And so we expand more at the very top, a little bit less on the next stage, a little bit less on the next stage, but we're expanding on every stage of the funnel. So the end result is about a 2x increase in revenue.
So Nike is pretty much acting as a volumetric expander, and also increasing
Yeah.
the per head rate as well, which means to increase the
Yeah.
impact of the results that you get.
And one thing that was kind of surprising to us, and I mean, it shouldn't be surprising now. Like it's not surprising now, but when we were first testing it out with our customers, was uh, they developed kind of a sense of a psychological safety and almost a reliance on Nayak.
Okay.
So they're on the phone or a video call with the prospect, and then they're used to having Nayak as kind of a safety net. They would see it as, well, if I forget something or I don't, there's a lull in the conversation, then I'll know what to say because Nayak will tell me. And there have been some times where, like every company, we have some
Yeah, yeah,
outages
yeah.
and they haven't been able to have it on some calls, and they're like, boy, my anxiety went up when I didn't have Nayak on that call.
Okay.
And so they're kind of getting to a point of reliance and psychological safety with
Got it. So
Nayak.
it's pretty much a safety trampoline that they bounce back.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's. I only wish I was there back when I was a salesperson. But
Yeah,
uh, love the conversation around what NAC is doing and what you as a futuristic leader has in store for NAC and even beyond. And we started off the conversation in sales, but it's sales and communication go hand in hand. There is no communication,
yeah.
there is no sales, obviously. So,
And yeah, our vision is really beyond
okay,
sales. Like we pick sales as an entry point
got it.
because that's where my co-founder and I have the most experience and network. But we see the technology can be used to break
It
communication
is.
barriers and enable deeper understanding. And we want to guide relationship building in every interaction because it all follows the same kind of key principles. And so we see a future where Nayak is present in every communication, providing guidance and hints and insights, giving you that morning briefing I was talking to you about, helping you strategize for key meetings, and then offering you those hints in real time to help guide the conversation to your desired outcome or to a positive relationship.
Exactly. And making you better as a communicator. Uh,
Yeah,
in a sense, that's what Nike is doing. So before we close things off, I'm pretty sure the audience would love to get in touch with you and know about Nayak and know about what David does and what the team does. How exactly would they have to get in touch with you, and if so, how?
yeah, of course. So the website is nayak.ai. So nayak.ai. Uh, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's David Frankle, and maybe you can put a
Yeah,
link in
you'll be
the
sharing that on the show
description of the
notes.
video.
Yes.
Yeah, and our you can email me also, David at nayak.ai. And we have an offer that your audience might be
Yes, for
interested
sure.
in. So we talked a lot about the real-time coaching, but it all starts with the preparation, which is a module. So we have this module where we prepare cheat
Okay.
sheets for important sales
Okay.
conversations. So you give us a little bit of information, and then we can prepare you uh, with a cheat sheet, like a dossier, where you can have everything you need to know going into that meeting. You can just skim over it in 5 minutes and walk in prepared. And we're giving away one free cheat sheet to anybody who wants it. So I'll give you that link also, you can put in the description.
Awesome. So thank you, David. And that's a bit of a gift from David and Nayak to our audience. So anyone who's interested in getting that cheat sheet, I for one would be, for sure. Uh,
Yeah, maybe the next person you interview on the podcast, you can get a cheat sheet from me.
there you go. There you go. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, David. Oh, one more thing before we close things off. I give this question to all our guests who's on show. Except Nayak and the mainstream AI tools, what's that one little AI or any other tool that has made your life easier, and what would that be?
Oh yeah, I have a good one for this. It's called
Okay.
make.com. So are you familiar with
Yes,
Make?
I love Make.
Yeah. Well,
Love
for your audience, I'll tell you a little bit. Basically, you can plug different tools into a
yes.
sequence, so you can take in like an email or a document. Or one thing I've been playing around with is using it to generate like blog
Yeah,
posts. So have it generate topics, and then you pass it to another prompt. Basically, you can chain prompts together with different tools and different contexts. So how I use it is you get context from like Google Docs, then you can pass it to like Anthropic with
yeah.
one prompt, get an output, pass it to Anthropic with another prompt, get an output, and you can chain it like that. I use it every single
There you
day.
go. Make has been a life changer for me in automating a lot of
Yeah.
the day-to-day repetitive things that we do, and yes, uh, cannot uh, cannot state the value of Make. But then, yeah, it's an awesome tool. But David, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for being with us. It was
Thank you.
pretty insightful. a very futuristic conversation, which I loved to the final dot. And yes, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll be with you again with another AI wizard, making changes in the world of
Yeah.
AI and the way we think and the way we do things, uh, how they're changing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.